Alright everyone, now they're saying a no-deal Brexit may occur on all days Halloween of this year, and that it's likely that that will happen. That's the expectation, I guess, of the EU's authorities. Now, Theresa May being, basically on her way out, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I think Nigel Farage should be Prime Minister of the country. I don't think they're elected, though. Aren't they expecting, like, some dude named Boris Johnson to be in charge, and he's kind of seen as weird? Kind of a little bit out there, like just a weirdo in general, but a harmless one, or is he considered far right or something? I don't know, because unfortunately politics is skewed so much in the European sense that socialism is considered normal over there, so it's a real big problem. That's why there is no future in Western Europe, and that's why Eastern Europe will eventually cause the EU to dissolve. But it's a good thing to have a no-deal Brexit. What kind of deal can you possibly concoct anyway? It's like when you say Nigel Farage should negotiate Brexit, I'm still saying there should be a hard Brexit. I'm saying that if a deal is to be achieved and it were even workable on any minute scale, it would have to be somebody like Farage negotiating it. Some people thought that I was in favor of a deal for Brexit. No, you should let no deal go through and then you should negotiate trade deals and stuff. The UK has a huge economy. It also has a lot of powerful friends and trading partners around the world. It doesn't specifically need the EU to survive. That's like saying if we stop trading with Malaysia or something, that all of a sudden we have a huge problem. No, that's not how it works. The UK has an enormous economy, is the second largest in the EU. The relative power of the UK diplomatically is significant. You have a decent military presence, although a declining one, unfortunately. I don't think you have anything to worry about. The only thing that could really take the UK down a notch really would be the globalists in your country bringing the economy down in the wake of Brexit to try to get a second referendum to rejoin the EU, which I expect that they'll do. If you have a no-deal Brexit, it will rock your markets, it will cause crime, it will cause unemployment, but it won't be Brexit causing it. It'll be a secondary effect of people who are moneyed interests within your country, whose money and productivity primarily relies on globalism. They will attempt to bring your economy down because for them, let's say all of their holdings in the UK collapse. They don't care. They've got holdings elsewhere. They want to increase the pain so the people of the UK can be made to blame Brexit and Farage and things like that, the UKIP, the Brexit party, and then they will want another referendum to rejoin the EU so they can go back to being vassals. After all of this time and effort, go back to being slaves, essentially. Thankfully, there are some European nations that seem vexed by the situation, probably would vote not to let them back in. So for you in the UK, you're actually, ironically, you're being protected by bitter enemies within the EU. People who politically are your foes are actually going to save your necks in the long term. And a handful of like nationalists and populists like Orban and stuff. It's a good time. But it'd be very, very funny. Wouldn't it be ironic to have that happen on Halloween of all days? Yeah, isn't it Halloween or right before that the bombs dropped in Fallout 4 and it's getting kind of weird mimetic here or something like that. Because then they talk about, if there was a hard Brexit, they'd have like nuclear forces on standby for some sort of military reason. That'd be interesting. The UK ends up inexplicably starting a nuclear war because the UK just couldn't deal with so little pain and bitterness. It's like the people at the top, the politicians there, got so used to being the EU's bitch that they're willing to just burn everything to the ground. Because they're like, oh my god, we can't stand all this not suffering under the yoke of the EU. So, life's not worth living unless we're miserable, essentially. I thought that was the way that certain other countries in Europe led their lives. I didn't know that that was British. I thought in Britain it was just the weather was supposed to always be bad. It's funny because you see like the Great British Baking Show or something like that, and there's these sunny days and flowers, and then it's actually very dreary. Don't feel bad. It's like that here. We have 90 sunny days a year, and that's not even an exaggeration. Most of the time it's overcast. But yeah, I think that the UK should have a no-deal Brexit. I think the idea that you're going to strike a deal is preposterous. Here's the problem. You put a Remainer in charge of the Brexit negotiations. The first thing she did is say, well, we'll give you everything that you want, but here's a list of requests that I have, basically. The EU said, why would we give you anything? You're willing to bend over backwards and give us everything and not even demand anything. Here, take this fucking deal back to the House of Commons, to your parliament. And she comes through and says, oh, the deal that they're offering us is basically, we'll still be subject to their rules, we just won't have a vote. We'll have to play by all of their rules, and by the way, they're going to take this money and that money and bilk us here and there, and they want these trading waters and this fishing port. They basically want to shill us and take everything, but you should pass the deal anyway. It is a total shilling attempt by Theresa May to stall out Brexit and do exactly what's been done. You should have a no-deal Brexit, and then you should immediately investigate. When the economy goes south, start investigating some of these really rich people with multinational holdings in the UK. I bet you'll find a few paper trails there. Then you should just nationalize their goods, since I know over there, I mean, you're socialists, so it's okay to do that. And I can't think of anyone better deserving. You know, you should muzzle the billionaire class over there that has all its holdings over in Brussels or in Munich or something like that, because they all do. Yes, the problem is when you get rich, moneyed individuals with a lot of political connections that make their money primarily in other countries, they're looking out for those countries' interests. I mean, it's by design. It's not even, you don't even have to consider them like primordially corrupt, like, oh, they were born into this corrupt, rich, plutocratic family of Illuminati reptilians. No. Just think of it this way. Let's say that all of a sudden I get rich. Me, Stick Sexnammer, I've done some investing, crypto takes off, I invested, I get a restaurant chain, and all the, and let's say I'm in 5 different countries. Let's say that mainly I've invested in India. I'm like, well, I'll get a good return, I pay my workers less, even though I would still, try to pay them more than the minimum wage. Basic worker protections and shit. It's good to be kind to the people that you rely upon for your money. Some people ignore this and go out of business. But I've invested, let's say I've invested $1 billion fucking dollars in India. Now, if I'm talking to my politically connected friends and they're talking about policy and stuff at some state function where I'm rubbing elbows with the Rockefellers and the Trump family and the Clintons and stuff, don't you think that if I'm asked my opinion on such matters, and I'd say, well, yeah, I'm donating to people's campaigns, maybe some of them even owe me favors, and I'm like, well, yeah, I think this policy might be bad for India. Maybe you shouldn't, Mr. Trump, maybe you shouldn't bring in this element of populism into the immigration system because I need to import more workers or something. Maybe you should alter the way in which our state functions on behalf of a foreign entity so that I can keep making money. That's how it works. It's inevitable because, yeah, you're going to look out for number one, and if number one is getting all of its money from another state, yes, you probably have a little bit less patriotism domestically. It's just the way that it's going to work. Get your hard Brexit, leave the EU, and force them to come and negotiate on your terms. The UK has that ability, it's just that it's not using it. The UK has refused, Trump has offered 3 or 4 different times, hey, strike a major trade deal with us. Fuck the EU. They're trying to abuse you. Look, we want your trade. Come on, trade and travel and all this good shit with the UK. That's what we want. We have a way bigger economy than the European Union, so I don't know why the UK would want to keep being masochistic. I assume it's because, again, Theresa May wants it to be painful. That's about all. Peace out.